the next pre-start downspeed skill that I want to talk about, I'm calling pivoting up and then reversing to windward. So in this skill, you turn sharply upwind, but you try not to accelerate. And then you reverse and exit on a backwards beam reach. So the purpose of this is to build a hole to leeward of you on the start line, or to exit a tight spot. So before I go into the breakdown, I'll try to explain that a little bit better. So first, if the wind is coming from the board, using my little model here, so to pivot up into the wind, so currently the boat is pointed towards me instead of towards the board. If it was pointed towards the board, it would be pointed upwind. So to pivot up into the wind, needs to heel very far to leeward, and then pull the sail in just enough so that the back edge of the sail catches the wind, and the power in the sail is way out here. So that pivots the boat up into the wind, instead of if you only heel a little bit and then you sheet in and flatten, that accelerates the boat. So you want to heel way, way over until the boat's almost capsized, sheet in a little bit to engage the leach of the sail, and then as soon as the boat starts to pivot, you don't need to sheet any more sail in. You can just let the sail go loose and steer the boat straight up into the wind. So now I'll try to do that at a different angle. So try to do the sky view. So if the wind is coming from me now, and you're looking down at the boat, and you want to pivot the boat up towards me, then you heel the boat like crazy so that the power is over here, and that pivots the boat up towards me, sheet in just enough so that the boat turns, and then flatten the boat so that it's pointing straight into the wind. So that's the beginning of a double tack. That is the beginning of a really tight downspeed 360 if you need to spin out of a nasty situation. But it's also valuable just to be able to sit into the wind. So if you have the wind coming away from the board again, if you're sitting into the wind like this, the other boats to leeward of you are drifting away from you. If you drift anywhere, you drift backwards, and then you can sail forwards, but we'll get into that in a second. So, reversing and exiting on a beam reach. So again, with the wind coming out of the board, you've pivoted up head to wind. Now if you sit here with the boom flapping backwards and forwards in between the middle of the boat and the back corner of the boat, and you keep the tiller straight, then the boat will drift backwards and you start to feel the flow on the rudder. So when you turn the rudder either way, even a little bit, the boat really reacts. You can feel it in the boat. So you want to push the tiller very slightly towards the sail, and the boat actually turns pretty quickly. And you want to make sure that the sail is totally loose, or even filled backwards. So you can, if it's very light wind, you can push the sail out, and then that reverses you onto a beam reach, and then the sail's just sort of luffing there on a backwards beam reach. The reason that most people find this difficult is that their tiller isn't straight when they start. It can feel strange getting the tiller straight. And then also their main sheet catches on something in the cockpit. So as the boat starts to reverse, the main sheet catches, the boat powers up, and then it starts sliding sideways instead of the centerboard and rudder catching the flow of water and letting you steer into reverse. So I call it reversing to windward, because if you're sitting on a start line, a boat over here would be to windward of you, a boat over here would be to leeward of you. So if you're close to the boat to leeward, you can pivot up into the wind, reverse out, maybe back the sail, and then if you're good at pivoting, you can pivot back up into the wind over here. And now you've opened up this space to leeward of you, and you've snugged up to the boat to windward of you. So pivot up into the wind, reverse to windward, and then pivot up into the wind again over here. So going through this skill breakdown, heel very far to leeward, have the tiller all the way to leeward. We're not trying to accelerate, so you actually want to oversteer. Flatten, engaging just the leech, just the back edge of the sail, and engaging it just enough to turn into the wind. Not so much that you accelerate. You then sit with the boat, head to wind, straight into the wind, and get the tiller straight. So that's one of the parts that feels weird. You want the back of the rudder pointing in the direction the boat's moving as it drifts backwards. Keep the boat flat. If the boat's tilting over one way or the other, so a lot of people just like to sit on their butt and then the boat leans to windward, and that makes it want to reverse that way. So you need the boat to be flat so that it reverses straight aft. If you have the boat heeled to leeward, that might help you turn onto a backwards beam reach. But usually what happens is the boat pivots too fast and then starts sliding sideways. So to keep control, you want the boat flat, so you have to sort of awkwardly crouch underneath the boom, and you don't want your back to touch the boom, and then you slide backwards. So I talk about the boom should be over the back corner or the center of the boat. You don't want the boom over this side, because then technically you've tacked, and then you owe right-of-way to everyone else. The other interesting right-of-way thing is that as soon as you touch the boom, then you're going backwards because of having backed the sail, and you also lose your right-of-way. If you're just sitting head to wind and the boat gently starts drifting backwards, technically you haven't lost your right-of-way because you're moving aft, but not because of backing the sail. The thing is, no one will know that, so you should still watch out for other people. They will think a boat going backwards doesn't have right-of-way. Technically, you can retain your right-of-way by not pushing the sail until you're clear of other boats. So keep the boat flat and start to reverse. Gently push the tiller to leeward. Steering when you're going backwards is a lot more drastic, so you want to steer very gently and notice how much that's affecting the course of the boat. And then once you've finished and you're on a backwards beam reach, then you can pivot back up into the wind again.